The janitor's keys jingled as he pushed open the classroom door, unaware his past was about to walk right back into his life. Daniel Foster had come here to start over, to hide the wreckage of a life that had fallen apart. But when his daughter's teacher turned around, her voice catching mid-sentence, time froze. Emily Brooks, the woman he had loved more than life itself, the woman he thought he'd never see again, and standing between them, the little girl who unknowingly carried both their hearts. The smell of floor wax and chalk filled the hallways of Maplewood Elementary. Daniel Foster dragged his mop bucket past the trophy case, his steps heavy from another sleepless night. The once successful contractor was now just Mr. Foster, the janitor. He didn't mind the work, not really. He minded the memories that came with quiet halls. Every echo of laughter reminded him of how far he had fallen. When he peeked into room 203 to clean, his eyes froze on the woman arranging books at the front desk. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear, he'd know that gesture anywhere. Emily Brooks, his first love, his almost forever. Emily turned, her face lighting up with the same soft grace he remembered, until recognition hit her like a wave. "Daniel," she whispered, eyes wide. He froze mid-step, clutching the mop handle like a lifeline. "Hey, Em!" The silence that followed was thick with everything they'd never said. Years had passed, but the pain was fresh. She'd become the kind of teacher children adored, the same warmth that once drew him to her like gravity. He forced a polite smile. "Didn't think I'd see you again." "Neither did I," she murmured, her heart racing. That night, Daniel sat beside his daughter Lily as she colored at their tiny kitchen table. The glow from the streetlight painted her curls gold. "Daddy, Miss Brooks said I draw beautifully," she beamed. His chest tightened. Miss Brooks. Of course. Fate had chosen the cruelest circle. He smiled weakly. "She sounds nice." "She is! You should meet her," Lily chirped. He looked at the unpaid bills on the counter, then back at his daughter's joyful face. "Maybe I will," he said softly, though his heart wasn't sure it could take it. The next day, Emily couldn't stop glancing toward the hallway. She told herself it didn't matter, that the past was buried. But when Daniel appeared with his mop and quiet eyes, she felt her pulse quicken. She found an excuse to talk. "How long have you been here?" "Just started," he replied, not meeting her eyes. "Needed steady hours for Lily." "I didn't know you had a daughter," she said gently. "She's my whole world," he answered, voice soft but steady. For a moment, they both just stood there, two souls realizing life had written them new chapters. Daniel's days fell into rhythm. He worked before dawn and late into the night, fixing squeaky doors, changing bulbs, cleaning messes. But his favorite moments were when Lily ran to him after class, clutching her teacher's gold star stickers. Emily began staying late, grading papers as Daniel cleaned. Their conversations grew from small talk to old memories, laughter over forgotten teenage moments, tears over what they'd both lost. Still, there was a wall between them, his pride, her uncertainty, the years that had taught them both to guard their hearts. One rainy afternoon, Emily found Daniel repairing a broken desk. "You always were good with your hands," she teased. He chuckled. "Yeah, except fixing my own life." She hesitated, then said softly, "Maybe some things can still be fixed." Their eyes met, and for the first time, Daniel didn't look away. The tension between them was thick but gentle, charged with all the words they hadn't spoken since that summer when they'd said goodbye. The rain outside pattered like a heartbeat. But fate doesn't offer second chances easily. One afternoon, Lily came home crying. "The kids said my daddy's just a janitor. They laughed at me." Daniel knelt, tears burning behind his eyes. "Hey, don't you ever be ashamed of honest work, you hear me?" Lily nodded, but her small shoulders still shook. That night he sat alone, staring at his calloused hands. The world judged worth in paychecks, not in love or effort. And for the first time in years, he felt truly small. Emily noticed his silence the next day. After class, she closed her laptop and said quietly, "You shouldn't let them define you." He forced a smile. Hard not to, when your daughter cries because of who her father is. "Daniel," she said firmly, stepping closer, "you're the man who shows up. You're the man she looks for after school. That's what matters." Something broke open inside him then. Not pain, but the first flicker of healing. The school's annual fall fair was coming. Emily volunteered Daniel to help rebuild the game booths, knowing it would bring him closer to the community. He wanted to refuse, but Lily's hopeful eyes made it impossible. Over long evenings of hammering and painting, Emily and Daniel worked side by side. They joked, shared sandwiches, and for the first time in years, Daniel laughed without guilt. When the fair lights flickered on that night, the sight of Emily's smile under the golden glow made his heart ache in the best way. After the fair, they walked together through the empty playground. The night was cool, the stars sharp and clear. "You know," Emily said softly, "I used to imagine us here, with our own kids." Daniel exhaled slowly. "We were too young. I made mistakes." "So did I," she admitted. "Maybe we both needed to fall before we learned to stand." He looked at her then, realizing she still carried a piece of his heart. But peace never lasts long. Emily's ex-husband, a polished lawyer named Mark, arrived to pick up their son from the same school. When he saw Emily and Daniel talking, his smirk was cruel. "Still aiming low, huh, Em?" Daniel bit his tongue, but the sting stayed. That night he considered quitting. Maybe the universe was reminding him where he belonged. Then Lily crawled into his lap and said, "Daddy, Miss Brooks says you're the heart of this school." And that was enough to keep him going. The next morning, Emily found him early, sweeping the hall. "You were going to leave, weren't you?" He sighed. "You deserve better than a man pushing a mop." Her eyes filled with tears. "What I deserve is someone who shows up, not someone who hides behind pride." He blinked, unsure what to say, but her voice softened. "Don't you see? You're not less. You're real." For the first time, Daniel let her hold his hand. As weeks passed, their friendship deepened. Emily brought him coffee each morning. He fixed her classroom heater before the first frost. Small gestures, quiet care. But rumors started spreading. Whispers about the teacher and the janitor. Some parents sneered, others gossiped. Emily stood her ground. "Let them talk," she told Daniel. "We know who we are." He admired her courage and feared his heart was in danger again. Winter arrived early, blanketing the school in snow. One evening, a pipe burst in the hallway, flooding the floor. Daniel worked through the night, soaked and exhausted. Emily arrived at dawn with coffee and a blanket. "You didn't have to do this alone," she said. He smiled, shivering. "It's my job." "No," she whispered, wrapping the blanket around him. "It's your kindness." That was the first night she kissed him, gentle, hesitant, but full of truth. For the first time in years, Daniel felt alive. They began meeting after hours, sharing dinners at her home, watching movies with Lily and Emily's son, Jacob. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever is. But it felt like family. Still, the past haunted him. The bankruptcy, the divorce, the judgment, ghosts that whispered he didn't deserve happiness. Emily sensed it. "You can't rebuild a future if you keep staring at what collapsed," she told him one night. He nodded slowly. "Maybe it's time to build something new." Spring brought new beginnings. Daniel started a side business repairing school furniture and playgrounds. Emily helped him design flyers, cheering him on every step. The community began seeing him differently, not as the janitor, but as the man who made things better. Lily proudly told her classmates, "My dad fixes everything." Daniel smiled each time he heard it. Maybe redemption wasn't about rising. Maybe it was about staying and growing. One afternoon, Emily's ex returned again, this time trying to take full custody of Jacob. "You're too distracted with your janitor boyfriend," he sneered in court. Emily's voice shook, but she stood tall. "He's not just a janitor. He's the kindest man my son has ever known." Daniel, sitting in the back, lowered his head, tears burning. That night, Emily hugged him tight. "You don't know what you mean to us." He finally believed her. Summer arrived. The school held a celebration for community heroes. Daniel received a surprise nomination from Emily and Lily. As he walked onto the small stage, applause filled the gym. His uniform still bore paint stains, but his smile shone. "I used to think failure defined me," he said into the mic. "Turns out love does." Emily wiped away tears, holding Lily's hand. For the first time, Daniel felt seen. That night, under fireworks by the lake, Emily whispered, "Do you ever wish we hadn't lost all those years?" He shook his head gently. "If we hadn't, we wouldn't be who we are now." She smiled through tears. "I missed you." He kissed her forehead. "You were never gone, just waiting at the end of my road." Daniel's business grew slowly. Parents began hiring him for home repairs. The same people who once pitied him now respected him. Emily continued teaching, more radiant than ever. Together they built something steady, quiet, honest, beautiful. Every evening Daniel cleaned the same hallways where their story began. But now, when he passed room 203, he smiled. It wasn't a reminder of pain anymore. It was home. Years later, on the last day of school, Emily handed Lily her diploma. Daniel stood at the back, pride swelling in his chest. When the crowd thinned, he and Emily lingered by the lockers, the same spot they'd reunited. "Funny," he said softly. "This place gave me a second chance." Emily smiled. Maybe it was always meant to. That evening, as the sunset poured gold through the windows, Daniel turned off the lights one last time. The mop leaned against the wall, his work done. Emily joined him, sliding her hand into his. "You ready?" He nodded, eyes glistening. "I came here to clean floors," he whispered, "but it's my heart that got cleaned." She smiled through tears. That's what love does. It makes everything shine. And together, they walked out, toward a life they had both spent years waiting to find.